Hi, welcome to Revive Ministries. It's a new year. When this gets uploaded, it'll already be 2021. A new year with a lot of much needed hope. And I remember a year ago, the world looked a lot differently. January 2020, I feel like that's not even a real date anymore, considering all that has happened. Today, this month, actually, we've been talking the same dialogue of a brave new world. I heard this phrase many times, but regarding how I feel presently, I feel it's appropriate. Today, I have my good friend Tamika returning as a guest to share her insight with us today. Thank you for agreeing to be with us,
Here.
Tamika. Let me just get you there. There you go.
All
Thank
right.
you.
We here.
I always like to start. Obviously, I have a disclaimer. Those who are listening, if you are in crisis, please seek appropriate professional help. There is a crisis hotline if you're in the United States. It's 1-800-273-8255. It's National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I encourage all those who are listening to find what's available in your area, whether you're in the United States or not. I know, at least for me, being a facilitator for NAMI and some that there's virtual support groups out there that may be just one of many ways you could find a resource. Like as tradition, I like to start every episode with a quote, and today is no different. And let me just put the number on there. I want to give it a little time so those who are watching could. It'll be in the notes, but as we step forward, I'm going to start with a quote, Tamika, like always. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. What comes to mind when you think of that? And then I'll share my insight. Well, let me just leave it there. Go ahead.
Definitely a shift and new chapter comes to mind. Oftentimes, when we think about new beginnings and new chapters, it's scary because we don't know what's on that other side. But I definitely think 2020 has showed us that going with the flow is kind of where it is right now. It's all you can do. And so, looking at that quote, that definitely speaks to the theme of what 2020 has been for all of us. Every new beginning comes with some other beginnings in as we uh, go and step into 2021. Um,
Yeah.
beginnings in.
It's I feel like life has out seasons for everything. When you're in elementary school, you go to middle school, high school, you get out. Today, when we record this, is Veterans Day, and I just remember being 18, going into boot camp. Yeah, that was a different
And thank you
season.
for your service, Robert. Yes, happy Veterans Day.
It was 2000. It was a totally different world back then.
Mhm.
Before 2001 and 9/11, I was I joined the military, but also there are seasons, and I feel like sometimes we've put an urgency in our minds that it takes too long to get somewhere. And for me, I know you mentioned what the quote meant for you, but I think for me, it's like there's a lot of urgency when we put on the emphasis on destination versus a journey, because no one gets it right the first time. I feel like sometimes we don't allow ourselves room to make mistakes, provide those safe places. I feel a fresh start can be a very hopeful thing when we look forward, into this new year. And I also find that it also it's all our perception, how we see things, how we see others, and how we see ourselves. But
Mhm.
now facing 2021, like we made it through 2020 by the time this uploads, facing 2021, what advice or insight would you share with those listening that you found personally helped you um, in this new brave new world context? Because I feel it means something different for everyone because they're in different seasons, as we mentioned. So
Right. So, as 2020, 2019 ended, and the beginning of 2020, that whole 2020 vision thing that we were
Mhm.
all on. Um, I told myself I totally want to be more intentional with all aspects of my life, and making sure that the decisions that I made or the path that I followed, that I totally thought it out. My personality is I am a person and I'm always thinking ahead, and so to some you call it a visionary or just really being into it, checking things out. But what I've had to tell myself and learn throughout 2020, because I have not had the luxury of thinking ahead and it going like I thought it would go, because it's been a new world, is being able to live in the moment. And I think there's power in living in the moment and just enjoying, absorbing what is happening now. Because I think as we move ahead, in our new world. I've cautioned myself also to stop saying the new normal, because this is now a change. It will never be what it was before, and embracing what life is now, but enjoying the moment and truly living in the moment as we continue to go through seasons and next chapters. I think it's power if you truly enjoy the moment, because then you can know what steps to take or to truly be intentional in the next seasons.
Yeah, I know. I really appreciate what you're saying because sometimes I'm the same way. I'm very much a planner, and you know that I plan to the T. Sometimes it bites me. I put my foot in my mouth, but when this comes out, it's January, and a lot of us, some of us in the states, may know that it's Martin Luther King Day is in that month, and I wanted to use this quote as it says, "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase.
Wow.
Just take the first step." It's
Right.
amazing. There's something about being willing to just make that first step, make that first. That I found very. It's not that what Martin Luther King is saying, that it's not that you're not afraid. It's not that you don't like you have everything locked and you have everything organized. No, you're making that first step, not knowing there's a full staircase ahead of you. And
Right.
2021 might feel that way. What comes to mind when you hear this quote?
Well, definitely, and from the spiritual realm, and holding true to our faith, and taking that first step, and then allowing God to do what He does, and allowing things to work like they're supposed to work, is definitely where we should be, because it does help when, like you said, we're both planners, and so we have our plan, and then the plan that actually happens, and the plan that actually happens usually is far greater than what our plan.
Yeah,
Um, was. And so, but like you said, taking that first step. And I always say that that's the best time to move, when you are unsure, when you are scared, because you don't know what's going to happen. So moving scared is definitely a great thing. Whenever those opportunities are presented and you're able to take that first step, taking that first step, you have nothing to lose in taking that first step.
yeah. This is a big struggle for me. Control. Sometimes control has been struggle for many of us. Because I feel like with my experience is that we don't like to fail. And
Mhm.
I feel like if we have enough control, we limit. And I understand the idea of being professional, and that does help. You want to be intentional, like you're saying. But control in the context of what I'm talking about is very different. I feel like sometimes when we control a lot of aspects, um, it kind of ends up controlling us. And when we think about COVID-19 and what has happened in 2020, that made that very difficult to happen, to even do,
Yeah.
because a lot of uncertainty. And I found that, that was hard to connect. As when your daughter was here, we talked about education, the whole idea, but of learning, and it's very hard now to get people involved in this new platform. Yeah, we're trying to shift, but it's always the I feel like the mentality has changed a bit about how we see health and how we interact with one another. But with that being said, I want to just talk about um, what your thoughts on the idea of control. How has it been a positive thing, especially when it comes to certain aspects? But how do you see control looking for you moving to 2021? Because like 2020 just kind of put a wrench into the idea of what we're used to having control over.
Right, right. And I used to always say, if I understand it, I could deal with anything. I can deal with anything I understand. And so I
Yeah,
felt shift my thoughts on, okay, you're not going to understand everything and you're going to have to know how to deal with it. And grace is what helped me, just having grace within myself and grace with others, because we all are in pivoting phases. And as you mentioned, even from the healthcare realm and all, we've seen pivoting occur that has been exciting, like looking at telehealth and just how the access to healthcare has changed.
mhm,
And during this time. And even when you speak of control, the control piece of access to healthcare was there to where you just couldn't do certain things.
mhm,
But
mhm,
now it's changed to where so many guidelines, so many things have been shattered that once was. And so understanding that when control is relinquished, it can give that opportunity and the possibility for thinking outside of the box,
mhm,
and thinking beyond what our measures would have been through us controlling it. And so it's also very exciting in the business realm because
mhm.
all businesses have had to pivot just as you are. And so
Yeah.
it makes us lean towards some things that we never thought we could. You know, who knew that being virtual or being
Mhm,
able to reach others would occur within my own church. It's
mhm,
exciting to hear each Sunday how what used to be new members, you stand up, you go to the front.
yeah.
Now new members encompass all across the United States because of the
Yeah.
virtual space.
Yeah, it's a church without walls per se.
Right.
That's really nice because like at the same time, that's what you wanted from the beginning. But
Mhm.
sometimes we get stuck on the wall, of the church. That is. I remember when I first started. When I talked a lot of times in the podcast and emphasizing intelligence, and a lot of times it emphasizes knowledge per se more than it emphasizes emotional IQ or
Mhm.
idea that I could empathize with someone. And like I just I did a group just recently talking about empathy and why is it important. And I
Mhm.
feel that it is important because sometimes just basically to get ourselves out of ourselves, so
Right.
especially during this COVID. But also, I find there's a lot of room for healing when you're starting to be grateful for what you have. I've
Mhm.
never seen in AA, NA, or in like mental health support groups, anyone really heal when they're just com- talking about what they don't have. It's more
Mhm.
about what they do have that makes that room that safe place to heal.
Right.
Um, I want to shift over to this one quote that um, I want you to kind of think about, give some insight. It says, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear."
Mhm.
Jack Canfield. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I want your insight, your experience. Why is this so important as we head into 2021? And yeah, go ahead.
And we both are lovers of quotes, so I'm gonna talk about on yesterday. I was in a meeting with the gentleman, and he was presenting out, and so it caused me to want to Google him and learn more about him. And as I Googled, I learned what his favorite quote was, and it spoke to me. And in that quote, I'm gonna just talk about this. It says, "Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it." And that was from Johann Wolfgang. But when I
Mhm,
look at the quote, everything you want is on the other side of fear, both speak to me so well because like how when you talk about that first step,
mhm,
um, fear can cause us fear can paralyze us basically
mhm,
because whenever in fear it's us overthinking, it's us being that planner, thinking that we're being intentional because we're thinking about all the what ifs that could happen,
mhm,
um, which then can cause us to be paralyzed. But knowing on that other side where there can be opportunity,
mhm.
sometimes we have to put fear to bed and let
Yeah.
and just sit fear down and just go on the other side, just to see the what if. The beautiful thing about life and experiences is that if it doesn't work, you can always fall back and think on it again or kind of plan a little better. And if it doesn't work, then that's still a tool within our toolbox. And it helps us to, when we do get back up and try again, well, now we know these things that may not have worked with the plan. And so it's always great to just to try it. Uh, Oftentimes we feel like we need more experience or more education, or we need to go to that one more meeting or training. But we have to sometimes tell ourselves that, okay, we know enough. Now let's put it into action.
Yeah, I like what you said. I was thinking quite recently, my recovery, and I remember in college, I was in line final interviews of a very good prestigious job in Wall Street in New York City, and I didn't get it. I was sick, and that for me was devastating. I didn't tell many people about it because um, I just remember thinking life was a bunch of destinations. I didn't make that destination to work and be successful in Manhattan. So then my destination, that means my value goes lower
Mhm.
and lower. And then I didn't get the destination to get married at the time and all that stuff, and destination even lower. I realized that my destination model mindset really was contributing on top of the symptoms that I was already facing and everything else. So when I look at the idea of the journey, it helps me have room to heal. It wasn't perfect. I wasn't. I wasn't. Whether I got that job or not,
Mhm.
um, it's a mute point because I feel for me, um, what's really important is our connections.
Mhm.
Because like right now, what do you think a lot of people are struggling is not being able to connect. It's not about like I guess unfortunately, but fortunately, I've met people on their last days of life, and never do I hear them really hold on to their titles. I think a lot of times when we hold on to titles or try to control situations, we're like the quote, we are there looking at the other side. We can't
Right.
get past that fear. But my fear was I didn't want to be a burden. That's why I didn't want, because I knew I was getting sick, and I thought that was a key to get that job, and it
Mhm.
wasn't. It wasn't. Now hindsight, looking back, and I ended up with that train of thought, really kind of feeling and ending up being that burden in my mind. You know what I mean? Until later, I started. Funny enough, help serving. Like I said, revive ministries and all that stuff. One thing I from Dale Carnegie kind of helps me in my mindset, because we could be very low on ourselves or very much in our heads. It says you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. I find that hilarious, but it's true.
It's very true. It's very true. I always say the greatest asset I have is relationships,
Yeah.
and being able to build upon relationships, because there definitely is power in friendships and family, and just building relationships. Like you say, you learn so much about yourself. Um,
Mm,
right now, I'm actually going through kind of in a, like I said, this is the time where everybody's looking to new chapters, and so
yeah.
looking at other employment opportunities. And
Yeah.
throughout the interview process, that's what I've been telling myself. Like, even if I don't get the job, like, I'm learning so much about myself through them asking me these questions, because it's making me think about
Yeah.
things that I normally wouldn't have. So.
Yeah. It's I feel like Bruce Lee says it this way, and I love Bruce Lee as a kid. I'm like, I love Bruce Lee, but he says, "I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine." I
Mhm.
feel like it's kind of like, for me, what that says to me is that we put too much weight on other things that really are not that important in the grand
Mhm.
scheme of things. Like, we put a lot of urgency on ourselves. Urgency, I feel like, is a blind, like, we don't see it, but it's right there. It's that invisible force that makes us feel like I have to say everything today. I have to do everything today. And us planners, it can be bad.
Right, right.
But at the same time, when we're able to pause, I think when we look back at 2020, it allowed us to slow down at the very least. I'm not minimizing those who've lost or those who've been hurt, but what it made us realize is what was really important was our connections. There's one saying, I don't know if I no, I don't have it here, but it says, the good news is only as good as the bad news was. Convoluted. It sounds a little bit wrong. And
Mhm.
one person in group said, "Does that mean I have to have bad things happen to me for to appreciate good?" I'm like, no. It just means that we're so easily to forget the good things.
Mhm.
It's trying to promote the idea of gratitude because going back to it, I find it very helpful. I think forgiving others who may have wronged is
Mhm.
more helpful, not so much for the person, or even
Right.
if that person forgives you, it's more for yourself to
Right.
heal and to move on. So, any last thoughts you want to share? As we kind of wrap up, I want to share one last thing with you guys. I know Tamika's been such a great friend since Revive Ministries even started. I remember just sitting there brainstorming and trying to figure out. And I just want to share this. This I wrote this out, and I thought it was pretty interesting. It says, "I've realized that the podcast, I started in October,
Mhm.
that my story may be important, but that is not what called me to creating and founding Revive Ministries. But more about everyone else's stories matters just as much. My passion through, my faith is to provide the safe place for those hurt to share. Because remembering of one of the biggest struggles I had was not being heard. Positive relationships, safe space. That's what Revive Ministry is trying to do. So, having the conversation, continuing the dialogue, and final thoughts, Tamika. What are your insight? What do you want to share with those as we wrap up with those listening right now?
Just would love to get final thoughts on what just I'm still thinking about what you talked about from the forgiving aspect. And I read a book over the last few months, The Four Agreements, and that's awesome book. Anyone that hasn't read it, check it out. One of the things in there that they talked about is how not to always think about things that happen or directed totally to us. Oftentimes when people are dealing with things themselves, it has nothing to do with us. It's totally about the journey. And so just giving more grace as we go along our way, because we're all trying to figure it out. And so, not always looking inward on what we could have done or what we can do to make things better, but giving ourselves grace, giving other individuals grace as well as we go through this journey. Um,
I,
it doesn't have to be figured out at once. It's okay to live in the moment. And definitely, like I said, having grace with yourself as we all try to navigate through our new waters.
I just want to just say, you also do this. It's on the corner; everyone can see it. And insightful solutions. I want to give you a moment to kind of share what you're trying to do with that and what you have been doing, and just share those listening, watching right now.
Yes, thank you, Robert. Insightful Solutions was birthed in 2017. And so it's always funny when I think back to when I was sitting on the couch from foot surgery, thinking about what Solutions could be. And we help business owners to expand their business, expand their reach. Social capital is so important in relationship building. And so helping businesses to tap into allies that they may not have known existed that could support and partner with their businesses. And so I'm also excited to announce that in Florida, throughout Florida, we're now certified to provide business consultant services to individuals that are receiving vocational rehab services. And so more information to come on that, but it's exciting to be able to provide these services on individuals that are thinking about starting a business but may think that they can't due to physical or other disabilities. And so we will be working to make sure throughout Florida that we're making new business owners succeed.
That's awesome, Tamika. Is there anywhere they well, it'll be in the notes, but is there a business email that people could write to you if they have any questions about Insight Solutions?
Yes, you can visit our website at theinsightfulgroup.com. And my email address is Tamika at theinsightfulgroup.com.
All right.
Also, we'll be launching a business acceleration group for individuals, getting groups together for individuals that are starting businesses. That'll be launching in 2021. So more information to come on that as well.
Thank you so much, Tamika, for just coming on and sharing everything. I will put those notes in the description, and also just want to also share with those listening, if you to find to hear all new news about Revive Ministries, please, I encourage you to go to the Revive Ministries website at reviveministriesfl.com. This is goodbye from Revive Ministry podcast. Live stream. This is not live stream, but this is video. And this is the last quote. I'm gonna put the video after this. There's gonna be a video about the what we're doing each month for um, for it was October, November, December, and January. But there's more themes coming up, so stay tuned for that, and they'll be premiering on the YouTube channel. Um, and with that being said, here's a quote. It says, "Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new." So this is again, thank you, Tamika, for for
Yeah.
just being. We're gonna end with this quote. No, well, this video.